All right, we're live. I do not see Commissioner Lynn. Oh,
Okay.
there.
Oh.
All right, do we have our quorum?
We do.
All right, let's start with our roll call. Commissioner Case
Here,
and Commissioner Covey. Okay. Commissioner Moorhead.
Here.
All right. Commissioner Stokes.
Here.
Commissioner Covey, I'm presuming is not here.
She was here. Not at the moment.
Okay,
We do have a quorum.
all right. Well, let's move on ahead and let's get our agenda approved for today, February 6th. And also, oh, I guess we have do we have some public comments? Excuse me.
I did not receive any public comments, and there is no one in the attendees list.
Okay. All right, and let's move on and then we'll approve our agenda and for today and our minutes from November 14th. Do I have a motion to approve those?
so moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, all approved, say aye.
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 All right, it looks like we don't have any guest presentations today. Let's move on to our action agenda and our community grants program with a presentation by Mr. Rizzatello.
Okay, thank you. So for this item, as you all may or may not know, we do a community grants program each year. We're based on what's left over in current expense budget. We allocate it out, and then various nonprofits and community organizations can submit applications for it. And it's a competitive process. And essentially we have some representation from each of our advisory commissions that put together an ad hoc group to grade them. And then those grades are averaged and then sent to city council for approval or not. So I was just hoping to get someone from this group who would volunteer to grade those.
All right, do we have any volunteers?
I volunteered, Kelly.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay, could someone make that in the form of a motion just because it's allocated money? I try to be official.
Okay. All right, so let's make a motion. Do I have a motion to?
Try that again. A fire call came in, Kelly, as soon as you
Oh.
called.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to approve Commissioner Moorhead to grade these community grants?
I'll move that we nominate Bruce Moorhead to be the representative.
All right. Do I have a second on that? All right. And all approved, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right, should we move on to the economic development flyers, or did you have anything more there?
No, that was it for that one. So next for the economic development flyers. So every year we update the data, and this is used for our marketing efforts when we go down to International Council of Shopping Centers conference down in Vegas. So you can click on each of the boxes to essentially view the edits so far. In a nutshell, the population in the city in general does keep increasing, which is good. So we're going to be above that 70,000 threshold, which definitely strengthens the marketability of the area, and the flyers are broken up essentially into a couple of districts. So Sherry, could you click on the downtown one? I'll just show. It looks similar once you see one for the district, but for each of the districts, we have a map of the area, key businesses, and then data broken out into 10, 30, and 45-minute segments, and then what the strongest consumer spending is within the 45-minute drive time. And a lot of the areas where we have our largest needs is really not a surprise to folks. It's the apparel and services, entertainment, groceries is another strong one, as is restaurants, furniture, and then the gasoline and convenience centers. So that demonstrates the additional businesses we need in the community. So really, I'm seeking if anyone has any edits to these. Otherwise, I'm looking for a recommendation, and then this will carry forward the city council.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments on these economic development flyers? All right, if there are no questions or comments, can we have a motion to approve these and move ahead with these?
I'll move that we recommend the flyers.
Okay, and do we have a second on that?
I second that.
All right, thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's move on now to our draft, our tax increment financing study by Mr. Rizzatello.
Hey, thank you. So this is very important, which is why we had quorum today. So for the future development of the community, especially in our Stone Creek growth area, as well as the downtown area, really up until tax increment financing was created in the state, jurisdictions were left between a rock and a hard place where it was really hard to incentivize development. About 2 years ago, the state finally changed that, because up until that time, we were the only state in the country where tax increment financing was banned. Now it is allowed, and it's a much more rigid process than other states. So you have to do a full tax increment financing analysis, and that's why we engaged with Bob Stowe of Stowe Development to do that study to see truly if it does pencil or not. Then that study essentially evaluates where the potential boundaries are, what the increment is, and what potential improvements could be. Sherry, if you could click on the GIS map, just so we can show the area, because from when this was originally, if you could scroll up and down, yeah. So from when this was originally introduced to this body a while ago, the boundaries changed some because you really want to narrow it down into where your increment is going to grow the greatest over the next couple of years. And if you recall in the initial boundaries, we had Walmart drawn in there, but the big box already exists, so that would be occupying, really room, where it could potentially lower bang for the buck because it's already there. So we narrowed the area to the Stone Creek area, which is the Mike McKiernan and Craig Christensen property south of Majanier. And then we also have it going up College Avenue, to take in all the downtown properties on both sides of the university. The other key change is when this was originally presented, we were told that the district had to be contiguous. That is no longer the case. It can jump around. That's why you see that it goes on the other side of the campus. And then the Cliff's notes of this, with what this increment financing is right now, should this eventually get adopted, because this is the first of a many-step process, this is like the baseline of all the taxing districts collect. So that what that means is that none of the districts within this boundary would be losing money from what is currently existing as of today. However, over time, as the increment in the amount of taxes grow over the baseline, that gets directed into a fund, and the school districts are exempt from this. So then what would go to the increment, they would still keep collecting. This mainly would divert some funds in the county and the library, and the port, which is the Economic Development Agency. And then essentially from those funds that get put into TIF fund, you can either do pay as you go or you can bond against it. Likely we would be bonding because that Stone Creek development, we have a developer for Craig Christensen's site, but some of the commercial powers that be need the infrastructure come in before they'll commit. So what this TIF would pay for, and we're trying to be very careful with it, and you'll see when you look through the pages of the report, but we have multiple revenue sources going to pay for projects. And the reason that is because this tax increment financing goes against your councilmanic bonding authority. So if you went for the whole enchilada, you could potentially gobble up all your councilmanic debt, and then if an emergency arises, you'd be between a rock and a hard place if you didn't have cash on top of that. So we took a more conservative approach where we mixed it with other revenue sources, such as grants that we're pursuing, and we have a very good track record of giving. So what it amounts to in the current TIF proposal is, as you all may or may not know, we need to rebuild Southwest Majanier Road. Right now, that's essentially a glorified county lane, and the city took ownership of it a couple of years ago. And that development's eventually going to have 400 single-family houses in there at full build-out. So it needs to be built up to an urban standard. We're doing engineering right now with other grant money. The TIF revenues would help to pay for the construction as well as utilities underneath. The Majanier price tag has mushroomed in the past several years, because when we were originally looking at it, engineering construction total were around 4 million. Thanks to inflation and COVID related expenses, you're now talking 9. We have TIF that would pay for about 4 million of it, and then the remainder is basically split between additional grant and resources we're going after and some city funds. Other projects TIF would go pay for would be this project does need an east-west road. Beyond this project needing an east-west road, frankly, so does the school district. So to the far southwest of the Craig Christensen site, the public school district bought some land for eventually an intermediate school to go back there. And the only way really to get back there is going to be construction of an east-west road that will bisect that property. So with the east-west road, TIF will go to pay for the amount of, for the road to get across the first property owner's property, which is commercial. And then the developer for the residential side will just take it the rest of the way to the school. Likewise, TIF will also go pay for redoing the intersection with the east-west road in the high school, because it's either going to be a traffic signal or a roundabout or something. We'll do a study to figure that out. Fourth project is the downtown area, which is why we have it going through downtown College Avenue. Thing we have heard for a number of years, and the development track record to date frankly proves it, is that a lot of development along College Avenue gets stymied because we have a parking requirement. So basically, for every employee on shift, there has to be a parking spot and then at least a guest spot. If we have good, regular triangular properties that were normally shaped, that may be attainable. However, we don't, a lot of them are very narrow and very long, and you can't really easily fit parking. In fact, for the upcoming apartment development at 8th and College Avenue, even to get them to do that, we've actually had negotiated interlocal to essentially allow them to use some of the spaces here at City Hall. You can't do that for the entire College Avenue corridor though, because we don't have enough spots for that. So essentially what the plan is that we have these large lots in the middle of our big blocks where there's vacant. And with those vacant properties, the idea is to make an offer. And if the city gets them in ownership, build parking lots in some of those middle properties not being utilized. And then we can waive the parking requirement up and down the corridor and actually get some development. Like what was envisioned, frankly, when College Avenue was rebuilt 6 years ago. And some of it has happened, but definitely not to of what we thought it would. It really has to do with that parking issue. And we've heard it from several developers as well as property owners, and it's a repetitive issue. So what we're asking today is basically approval sent to City Council and sent to the State Treasurer's Office. And what will happen is if you all approve this is going to council workshop tomorrow for them to review. And there's nothing that's really solid as of right now. It's not like all of a sudden the TIF will exist. What this is going to set in motion is with the state tax increment legislation, you actually have to send the study to the state treasurer's office. And then they have up to 90 days to review it and essentially grant you permission to do it. And then if you get permission, then you come back and then you have a public hearing and you do additional outreach. And then you can then create the district and then it's live. The district can go up to 25 years. Cities can have up to 2 tax increment financing districts. As of right now, we are just proposing this one. We're just gonna hold the other one in case something else happens somewhere else. We just don't know. But this is the one that appears most solid and in the greatest need. And then frankly, I would say the other fear is when you look at those marketing flyers, what the numbers prove really is that this valley can probably support one other significant commercial nexus development. And this allows us to get off the head of Walla Walla because they're going to go for a TIF district next year, I was told, to punch through South Myra Road. And I think whoever gets there first is going to get the remaining commercial district. So that's what we're trying to do. Questions?
Okay. If we don't have any questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve this tax increment financing study and take this on to the city council workshop?
I'll make a motion to recommend to the city council this draft study.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. And do I have a second on that?
I second that.
And all approved, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to our staff reports. Our broadband action team by Mr. Rizzatello, please.
Hey, thank you. With this broadband action, this is just to give you all an update on this. So for a while, the state has been getting pass-through money from the federal government. The federal government has essentially issued the rulemaking on this, so it's actually going to be a very quick turnaround. So in order to get this large infusion of federal money in across the country, it amounts to like around like $40 billion. Each county in the state is going to have to do what's called a broadband action team. And it has essentially a cross section of anyone that provides internet, business owners, cities, basically anyone that's interested. And the state via the feds are paying for it, but they have to develop essentially a plan for areas who are either unserved or underserved. So unserved is basically under essentially 3 megs. The download speed, and then essentially for the underserved, it ends up essentially around the 300. And then with the studies, what they're going to start doing is mapping out areas in which either private providers can build the broadband with this federal money, or they're outright going to give it to the state, which in turn would give it to jurisdictions to do build out. So this is important at College Place because unlike other cities, I would say we have what I would call a Swiss cheese coverage, which is some of our areas like Homestead area and villages of Garrison Creek have really great internet, and then other areas like where I used to live actually right behind here over the Birch and 9th have really, really bad internet. Now typically the ports do these broadband action teams. In this case, it's going to be a collaboration between the Port of Walla Walla and Community Council. Community Council is really spearheading this with the internet study that they're pretty close to wrapping up. So the first meeting of the broadband action group, they're essentially going to end up having one this Friday over at the airport. And that one will be at 8:30 in the morning through 10:30. And Mary Campbell of the Community Council, you can reach out to her about specifics of it, but they're going to try to whip out one of these like broadband action plans, because without the plan, essentially the county and any jurisdiction within it will not be able to get any grant funding for this, and it'll probably be a once a 20-year type thing to get that large of an infusion of cash. So unfortunately, it's a really quick turnaround, but it's a lot of money. So that's supposed to get an update, but it's going to be a county-wide thing. The port did a study, but it doesn't cover a lot of the incorporated areas, because at the time they were chasing grant money for the rural periphery. So it actually goes in pretty deep for Loudon and Touchy and Burbank and Wallula, but it doesn't cover city of Walla Walla or city of College Place or the immediate areas surrounding both at all. So there's going to have to be a lot of work for the incorporated areas. But that's what I know as of now. This basically came out of nowhere and is moving pretty quick. So I just thought I would update the group on this, because we're definitely interested in getting the money and partnering with whoever to build the Swiss cheese islands. Does anyone have questions?
What is the broadband action team for this area? What is it? Consistent?
They're just forming it, right? Yeah, so that's the thing because originally through the community council internet study, we heard the broadband action team existed and we started asking a question, well, who's on it and what is it and why don't any of us know about it? Because Columbia County is actually believe it or not, they're like light years ahead of us. Like Dayton, and they have like a fully completed broadband action team and they're fully going. So when we asked those questions, the port started it with a rural study and there was some comments like, oh, that's the broadband team, but it actually wasn't. So we have to like hurry up and get one going. So that's what the initial meeting is essentially on Friday, where where I know community council is trying to meet with jurisdictions and some interested parties. And then it's going to go from there in WSU, their extension office. They're helping a lot on this effort because the federal government gave them like a lot of money to conduct all of these like plans and outreach efforts in conjunction with whoever these BAT teams are. But as it stands, our BAT team, because we're a little late to the table on this thing, they're gonna have to help us get this put together and actually whip out a plan probably in about 4 months.
And the us.
Yeah.
That they're supposed to help is.
Yes.
Just the city of College Plains?
It's the whole county. It's the whole county, and if you ask me, it's the areas that weren't really addressed in that original rural study that was done. So that means city of Walla Walla, city of College Place, Waitsburg, Dixie, basically East County areas, because that rural study, the port went heavily like into West County. So pretty much everything from like Loudon up to Burbank, they did a pretty good job of, but they didn't really address stuff going east or in the urbanized area.
How's Umatilla County set up?
Well, I found out about that from the community, because I'm on the community council internet study group, and apparently Oregon has seemingly dropped the ball a little bit because they didn't even give it to their extension office, and it's residing in the broadband office of the state, but the state broadband office isn't really like communicating with the locals. So no one really knows what's going on in Oregon. So that's a wild card down there, but at least up here, it's fast tracked and we're just gonna have to like get on it and try to figure it out. Otherwise, it's leaving a lot of money on the table and other folks will get it.
Who's representing College Place?
I'll be on that. If anyone from this body wants to be on it too, let me know. I mean, right now they're just forming the thing, so it doesn't even exist. So I have no idea when else it's gonna meet or what it looks like, because I was told, hey, we're putting it together, show up. So I'm doing that.
Good report.
Yeah.
So this is Friday morning at 8:30 out at the airport. Is that correct?
Let me pull it up on my phone again, just so I get, yeah. So Friday morning, out at the airport, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Okay. Okay. So Mike, are you encouraging any of the rest of us to come to this? Or
Well, I mean, I know you're all busy. I'm coming to it. I would say if one other person wants to go, that would be good, since it's the start of it. I mean, I don't think we need to outright inundate it with College Place folks, but I do think we need to have a decent representation now.
yes. Yes, okay. Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions or comments, I'm looking forward to the development tracker by Mr. Rizzatello.
Thank you. And if you could click on that, Sherry. So Tom, just so that you're aware of this, every month I put this out. This is actually a development tracker of the progress of all of the commercial and residential developments going on, and for stuff that's publicly known, we actually say who it is, but for stuff where there's either a non-disclosure agreement or they don't really want to be known yet, we give it a name, or if you look at the name, you can somewhat figure out who it is. Yeah, it's not that tricky. And then it says the location and the status. We do a status month to month on it. So, Project Quickie Mart, they are still having discussions with us. That is a gas station convenience store concept. Which would be good, because as we all know, on, basically during Sabbath, the gas pumps close in town, so it'd be nice to have one that's open, during Sabbath. So, what the Quickie Mart one is looking at is there is some property on the other side of the highway from Walmart. Right now, it has a city detention basin on it, and they're looking at the concept of if they paid to move said basin, if that would be a doable thing, but then the gas station, because the problem is the basin's in the city, but then the land outside of it is not in the urban growth area, it's like unincorporated county. So we're evaluating the logistics of that, but we are trying to finally get a gas station in here because it's a major issue. Chipotle. Updates on that, we believe that will be around the summertime. So right now, the company that owns the building, they're just starting to do the full gut, and then they're gonna do the split, because essentially that building is gonna be split in two. So Chipotle will have the back half, the front half will be another tenant, but they're just getting those sort of improvements underway. Next page. The Burger King, we are still, working, with them. They're going back and forth on the plans. And they're trying to resurrect the plans from the original franchisee, because our original franchisee went bankrupt. So this is a new franchisee that's, believe it or not, out of Zilla. And then we have essentially Project Bed. That one is essentially a hotel that we are talking with. The last month of the EdTech meeting, you all recommended that hotel study, and that's getting a lot of traction. So there is a hotel chain based out of the Midwest that has a concept of a 60 to 70 room hotel. And they're essentially fishing around the area over by Half Thief. So we're doing what we can to help them out. They've been reaching out to folks for financing, and they're just trying to get their final investor group together, but it looks like it's gonna go. Project Red, that is a developer that does like big box power centers, and they want to get a presence here in the valley. They really are just trying to get a deal done on some properties. So they continue to tire kick with some of the vacant properties over on our side of the Myra and then College. Next page. Project FM. That one is a big box general merchandiser, and really the big thing holding that up is they want the guarantee of the rooftops coming in. So this is down over by the Stone Creek Christensen development, because when they go somewhere, they like being surrounded by people. They don't like being on the edges. So their big thing has been infrastructure and truly making sure they would actually be in the middle of a community and not at the edge of it. So we believe once that gets going, that should fall in place, we believe. Then Project C is a very interesting one. So Project C historically was looking around town, and then it went sideways a decade and a half ago. And with that one, they are pretty much looking at a couple of locations in the Columbia Basin. They originally were gonna go to one of the larger tri-cities, but a deal went sideways there. So they're looking either here, Hermiston or West Richland. And we continue to provide them with information as needed. Project D, that one is the sit-down restaurant, and really all times we've talked with them, what is really holding that one up is the whole left turn lane thing off of Myra. So the one benefit of Walla Walla doing the intersection improvements that I have an agreement with them where we finally get the left turn lane, so that will actually help that endeavor. Next. Okay, then Project Flight, that is the Martin Airfield area that continues to get master planned. That is under the ownership of Terragon and Mike Corliss, and we're just urging them to establish a land use to it because that area has like no land use right now because we originally tried pulling that out of the urban growth area some time ago to go further down 125. So we continue to try to get them to do something that's conducive with the airport. Project Medical, that was the Best Med site that finally did open over on Commercial Drive, so they're doing well. And then Project Detroit, that's a car dealership. That one is a dealership that's over in Tri-Cities, and they're looking at doing a satellite presence here. Next. And then Project Arches. This one, it's a fast food retailer. Interesting thing is that they have enough customers. They already exist in the valley. Apparently they're trying to disperse the amount of people going through their facilities, so they're trying to get a facility this way. So they are looking at the old vacant dealership site at Rose and Carey Court. Believe it or not, they actually are looking at the former bank right over here. It's 6th and College. I think the traffic that could go through there may pose a challenge, but we'll see what they come up with. So that's the commercial side of the things. Residential side of the things, Homestead, they are planning to do their last phase of Wise Size. So that's like the smaller unit development along Dones, and we're expecting to see those permits this summer. Next. Then Villages at Fort Walla Walla. This is an important one because this issue is likely going to come up before this group again. So that was the apartment development that stalled out behind Home Depot. They're actually back again. And they're turning in revised plans. I mentioned it's going to come before this body because they're changing it. Originally, it was going to be a super high-end development, and now they want to do a mixed income one that has some affordable housing in it. So I'm expecting that they're going to turn in an application for a multifamily housing tax exemption. And then essentially, depending on what type of application that turn in, it could be either a 12 or a 20-year tax exemption, depending how many units they want to be affordable and what are the income levels they're serving. So it's all conjecture as of right now, but they have communicated that. Sermon development up at Spitzenberg, one of the buildings are permitted, but the others are still going through the process. Really, this is when it's been held up just because of how the economy's been. Next slide. Stone Creek. That is the area south of Majanier. So the big deal there is they have Christensen's side of the development, which is 200 of the 260. That did sell, so that's like a actual thing that's going. So that's sold to they're doing business locally as College Holdings, but it's a group called Lakeside Capital out of Post Falls. And we're expecting to see them go through the master planning process this fall. Because it sounds like they want to start turning dirt as soon as next year. So that's why we're trying to hurry up with TIF and everything to get ahead of it, because we think it's going to be fairly substantial. Next. Villages of Garrison Creek, this is another one. This is actually going to go down in the summer. So this is the donut hole part of the Villages of Garrison Creek development. If you drive through it, the vacant field in the middle of it, hearing examiner approved it. It's going to be roughly about 70 units of housing in this last phase here. And we don't think it will finish this summer, but a good portion of it is probably going to get going this year because they seem to be ready to go and it's been approved. So next. Vesper, this one. So we are working with them just on some final plans. So this was the developer at this body approved the downtown catalyst incentive for. So they are just working through some final code issues, but we expect this to break ground this spring. And there'll be roughly about 24 units, apartment units right over here, southwest corner of College and 8th. And we're working through a final parking agreement with them because they don't have enough parking on site. So that some of the folks who are going to be living there are going to need to have to park over here because there's just not enough room. And then Deer Meadows, this is Southwest 12th. So basically, if you drew a line, like where Davis got under, if you drew a line straight going south, that it's basically where they're going to be developing. So this will be a bunch of essentially duplexes, things of that sort. And they'll be off of Southwest 12th and Davis. And Davis down at 12th doesn't exist, but it will as part of this development. Next slide. And then the Murray short plat, this is actually a new one. So this one is basically on the south side of Southwest 12. So right where it does the curvature at, on the other side of Deer Meadows. So for a long time, it was a house with about another 6 acres, and that's going through a short plat process, and they're going to subdivide that and turn it basically into another 5 units of housing in addition to the house that's there. So we're working through that with them, but there'll be some additional housing over on the southwest portion of 12th. We are working with that developer though to improve that portion of 12th because if anyone's ever been out there, very narrow road, and we had them put in sidewalks the last phase. But for again the amount of lots out there and people, we're going to have them put sidewalk on the south side and try to fix up the south side of the road because it's very narrow. So with that completes everything that's going on development wise that we're aware of in town. Any questions?
Okay, if there aren't any questions or comments on this, it looks like we will be having our next meeting on March 6th, 5 p.m. And do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, and we'll see you all next in March.
Hey, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
You.